You Can Do It, Part 3, the role of leaders, communication creators, and the church membership in the communications process. This is a training video from Yvon Prehn. The meaning of you. When I say you can do it, I don't mean just any one individual. I'm talking about the church as a whole, and this is very important to understand. Everyone, all of you, need to be involved in communication, though people have different roles. Let me just briefly say what they are, and then in the rest of this little short video, I will explain the different roles in detail. First of all, the leaders. Leaders primarily do the planning. The church leaders, the pastors, the ministry leaders, these are the people who set the vision. We're going to reach our community with this project. We're going to launch a small groups ministry. Whatever it is, that's the leader's job. Then the folks that create the materials are primarily staff and volunteers. Many of you listening to this fall into this category. And I just want you to know that you're not alone in it. Sometimes it's easy to be very overwhelmed, but you're not alone, and I'll explain that a little bit more. And then probably one of the most surprising things for people in the church is to realize that the primary marketing in your church should actually be done by your congregation. You prepare the materials, and I'll explain this a little bit more in detail later, but they are the ones that reach out to what's called their oikos. This is the whole biblical concept of the people that they do life with, their family members, their neighbors, the people they interact with as they go about their day in their work. They do the marketing, you create the tools. The vision is cast for the direction that you want the whole church to go in. It really works well, and let me show you how that can work out. First of all, for leaders. Now, when I say leaders need to be involved in communications, sometimes pastors and folks in other ministry leadership positions start to panic and they think, oh, no, not me. I don't like doing that stuff. I don't want to do that stuff. That's my church secretary's job. Well, that's true, but you do have to be involved because you are the person who sets the direction, the goals. You are the one that creates the message. Now, it's very important, though, that you understand that your job is very similar to a conductor in an orchestra. The conductor does not know how to play every single instrument. He or she doesn't know how to play the drums and the violin and the clarinet and all of that. But that person makes sure everything's moving in harmony. That's your job. You do not have to understand how to do things, but you need to understand how things are done. That's what's really important. Now, let me say also that you need to be very aware of something, and that is don't fall prey to what I call communications envy. Now, this is what happens, and I've seen this far too many times, where a church leader with the best of intentions will go to some big church conference, usually held at a mega church. They either pick up publications from that church, or perhaps they even attend a seminar put on by a well-meaning person on the staff of this megachurch who says, this is how you should do your communications. Well, that's very nice for the megachurch, but then what happens is the pastor comes back to their home church and without actually saying it, the whole idea is if we do communications like they do them, then we'll be a big church too. Well, that is a very false assumption born of communications envy. First of all, let me just say realistically, what works in a really big church, a church of say 15, 20,000, does not work in a church of 200 to 300 members. Everything is different from production capabilities to the way that it looks. I mean, everything is different. And also, let me just say, because I've seen this up front firsthand, what got a big church to mega church status is not how they started out. My husband and I live in Southern California. He is a pastor who's been involved with the whole purpose-driven church movement, whatever you want to call it, for many, many years. We went to some of the early conferences at Saddleback Church before they were this giant mega church. I have in my possession, and I need to get permission to be able to reprint some of this, but I have copies of all their early communications. I have a tape Rick Warren did early on how to reach out to people, how to communicate, when it was just a very small church. Let me tell you, the stuff does not look anything like what their stuff does today. Now, it wasn't bad then. It isn't necessarily better now. It's just appropriate, and it was appropriate for each step in their growth. You want to create communications that are appropriate for your church where you are right now. Be yourself. Be honestly who you are. In your church, that's the best thing that you can do. And once you realize the vision for your communications, who you are, who you want to reach, you continuously cast the vision. And also, too, I encourage all of you that are church leaders to remind your people how vital their work is in fully fulfilling the Great Commission. That's what it's all about. Constantly equip, train, and encourage your communicators. That is your job. You do not create the things. You do not actually do the keyboarding or whatever, but you must cast a vision. You must make sure that your communicators have the tools and the encouragement they need to get the job done. Then, those of you that are communication creators, when you looked at that first video, you saw the chart of all the things to do. You probably felt overwhelmed. Even without that, I am sure you feel overwhelmed in your job as communications creator. There is so much to do. You can't do it all. No one person, not even usually 2 or 3 people, can do all of the things that really need to be done in the church for the church to accomplish all the tasks you need to do. You then need usually to get volunteers, but that just saying volunteers, that strikes terror into the hearts of many in the church, because people always say, well, what if they don't do what I want them to do? And what if their stuff doesn't come up to my standards? And there's just all these kind of problems. I understand, and these are valid concerns. Here is what I suggest, and this has really helped a lot of people, and that is where you break your communications into 2 levels. You have a PR level and a ministry level. The PR level, this one makes up your key communication pieces, your bulletin, your newsletter, the website, the business cards, the things that really describe you as a church. These are typically done on with very tight standards, lots of proofing, higher quality production perhaps. These are the things that are really the public face of your church, sort of the showpieces, if you will. But then there's a whole additional level of communications that are needed. The flyers for Bible studies and Sunday school classes, and the postcards to get the guys to show up for the work day, and the reminders of the mom's morning out, and just all these different things that need to be done. The overall person can't do all of them, but staff and volunteers in various parts of the church, they can create their own. You need much more flexible standards. I mean, let's face it. If there's a typo that goes out on the postcard for the guy's workday, it's not the end of the world. So don't be obsessive about them. Just getting communication out there is just really important. These folks, you give them guidelines, you give them templates, you give them training, but you see, in creating a team of communicators, this is what you need to do to really create all the pieces that are needed to fully fulfill the Great Commission in your church. One more group, very important, your congregation. They are the people who actually do the marketing. You create the pieces, they take them. This whole idea of oikos, it's biblical, and a lot of it really got me thinking about it. I attended a conference by this gentleman, Tom Mercer, and he's written this little book, Oikos book, and you can get it on the web. But this is the whole idea that their church has used to grow, and it fits in really well with what I've been telling people for many, many years. The way it worked in their church, they were just a small group starting a church a number of years ago, and their pastor said to them, he said, and he teaches this in the book and in his seminars, each one of you as individuals in the church, you are not responsible to convert the entire world. You are responsible for the 12 to 15 people that you do life with, the people in your family, your neighbors, the people you interact with as you go about your work and your job. Those are the people you're responsible for. And so his church is all about equipping the members of the church just to reach out to the people that are in their oikos. This is a New Testament word for your household, the group of people that you are associated with. At their church, again, it started just a regular church plant, just a few people. It is now up to over 12,000. This really works. And the practical application, and it's so exciting in church communications. This is what I've been teaching people for many, many years. And again, many other videos on this website go into different parts of it. But create invitation cards for your people. Give them out to everybody where they know where your church is, what time it starts, all of those sorts of things. There's another video that tells you exactly how to do this here on the website. Postcards. Postcards are phenomenal still for people, but very expensive for churches to create and mail. But why not create them in the church office? Then on Sunday morning, pastor gets up and says, okay, all of you can see in your bulletin, you've got 5 postcards advertising our upcoming special event. Now, here's what you need to do. Either give them out as an invitation or address and mail them to a friend along with a personal little note. And by the way, would everybody please put their postage on there? You see, doing something like that, you are equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry. You might put out other things, parenting newsletters that your church puts out, and you can pass them on to neighbors to show your church cares about kids. Again, on the website, I have a recipe for resurrection cookies. It's a little cookie thing you can give out to friends and neighbors that in making cookies, it's a way to illustrate the gospel message around Easter. All of these sorts of things, you create them, your people get them out there, they do the marketing. And you see, not only does it save a church a ton of money, but you're doing what biblically we are supposed to do, where people tell their friends about where to find eternal life. But they don't have to do it in a scary way. That's what's so great about these things. It's easy, it's natural. And then too, make sure your website's reliable. We'll be talking about this more later, and I'll give you some very specific ways to do this. But if you give out these different things, I'm sure it'll have your website today. Websites are very important. People go back to them immediately to check on a place, to find out things. And if all your website is one big flashing opening page, but then your schedules aren't up to date, you can't find out anything about your programs, there's no staff bios, I mean, all this kind of stuff that sadly I see a lot when I look at church websites. If that isn't there, then it can destroy all of the goodwill and marketing your people have done. So don't do that. Make your website reliable, give people the tools, and get your congregation out there marketing. Now in part 4, we're going to go into much more detail on how to plan and manage our church communications. Hang in there with me and you will create very successful communications for your church.